Welcome back to CyberTest Deep Dive, Decoding NIST. I'm Maria.
And I'm Alex. Today we're diving deep into a topic that's absolutely, well, non-negotiable for every non-federal organization navigating the digital landscape.
Yeah,
The incident response family.
that's right.
Think of it as your ultimate survival guide for when, not if, but when the unexpected happens in your digital world.
Exactly. This is the What to Do When Things Go Wrong master plan, distilled directly from NIST Special Publication 800-171 Revision 3. We're zeroing in on its crucial incident response section, unpacking all 5 core concepts, the drawing from NIST requirements 03.06.01 through 03.06.04, and even touching on 03.06.03.
Right.
Our mission today is really to equip you, our listener, with the insights needed to build a truly robust incident response capability, especially when controlled unclassified information, or CUI, is on the line.
Because let's be honest, cyber incidents aren't some distant threat anymore. They're just part of operating in today's interconnected world.
Absolutely.
It's all about making sure you're not just prepared to react, but prepared to act strategically and effectively when a security incident occurs.
Right.
Our goal is to help you minimize damage, protect your critical assets like that CUI, and get back to business with, as little disruption as possible.
And we'll unpack why these steps aren't just good practice,
No, not at all.
but absolutely crucial for safeguarding everything from sensitive security information to your organization's reputation.
Everything. Okay, ready to jump in.
All right, let's embark on this deep dive into your 5-step survival guide for incident response. We're kicking things off with the foundational first step, the plan.
The big one.
NIST 03.06.01 doesn't just suggest, it emphasizes developing a robust incident response plan. Now, it sounds simple enough, but from your experience, what's often overlooked when organizations first try to tackle the plan?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, because it's precisely where many organizations stumble. They might have a document somewhere, maybe, but they often miss the essence of what NIST is driving at. This isn't just some static document to check off a compliance box.
Right, not just shelfware.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's your organization's dynamic, formal, written roadmap. And the biggest oversight, I'd say it's not defining exactly who does what and under what specific conditions during a security incident.
Yeah, the roles and responsibilities.
Totally. Think of it like a fire escape plan for a bustling high-rise building, right?
Right.
But for your digital assets. You wouldn't just hope people instinctively know what to do in a fire.
No, you'd practice it.
You'd have a clear, practiced plan. The same applies with, I'd argue, even greater urgency to cyber incidents.
So it's not just a generic incident response policy tucked away in some SharePoint folder somewhere.
Definitely not.
What exactly does NIST mean by a comprehensive plan, then?
Well, it means this plan needs to define your entire incident response capability, the whole thing. We're talking about covering everything from the preparatory steps, which include building this very plan and training your people, as we'll discuss soon, right through the active phases, detection, analysis, containment, eradication, and ultimately recovery.
The whole life cycle.
The whole life cycle.
Yeah.
NIST wants this plan to be comprehensive enough to detail specific roles and responsibilities for every single involved party, lay out crystal clear communication protocols, who talks to who, when, and establish precise escalation procedures. When does it go up the chain? The goal is to eliminate confusion and ambiguity precisely when your organization is under the most pressure.
That's the ideal, certainly. But you also mentioned it's a dynamic, living document. What does that truly entail in practice? Because, I've seen plenty of plans that get written once and then just gather digital dust.
You've hit on such a critical point there. NIST is very clear that this isn't a static artifact you write once and forget. It must be a living, breathing guide that you regularly update. This means incorporating any changes that happen within your systems or your organizational structure.
Like new software, new teams.
Exactly. A new cloud service, a different department head, or even just a shift in your business operations. And even more importantly, it needs to address problems or gaps you inevitably discover during its implementation, or, crucially, during testing.
Testing, we'll get to that.
You will. It's a big one. This iterative approach is absolutely key to its effectiveness. You learn from every test, every minor incident, every new piece of intelligence you gather, you adapt, you refine, you continuously improve.
So it's an ongoing cycle?
It's an ongoing cycle of proactive preparedness, not a one-time project you can just tick off the list.
You highlighted seamless coordination earlier. Now, my experience tells me this is often easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
An incident isn't just an IT problem, right? Yet often it feels like it's treated that way in practice. How does NIST's emphasis on broad stakeholder involvement counter this common organizational silo effect?
That's precisely where the seamless coordination mandate comes in. And it's a profoundly important insight from NIST. An effective incident handling capability truly demands that everyone across the entire organization is on the same page and knows their role.
Right.
Remember that analogy of a complex machine. Every gear, big or small, needs to turn together for it to work. Incident response is exactly the same. It's a multidisciplinary effort. And NIST clearly highlights that this extends far beyond the IT department.
Okay, so who else are we talking about?
Well, for instance, your mission and business owners are absolutely critical.
The people whose work actually gets disrupted.
Precisely. These are the individuals whose core operations, whether it's your manufacturing line, your critical logistics, or your customer service portal, are directly impacted by an incident. Their input ensures the response prioritizes business continuity.
Makes sense.
Then you have your system owners, naturally, who are responsible for the technology itself.
Yes, sir.
But don't forget human resources.
Why HR?
Well, they play a vital role for personnel-related issues, especially if there's a potential insider threat, or maybe if employee actions contributed to the incident somehow. They handle the sensitive aspects of personnel management, disciplinary actions, that sort of thing.
And it goes even further than that, right? I'm thinking about the legal side or even physical security.
Exactly. Your physical and personnel security offices are crucial because a cyber incident can often have physical implications.
Like needing to restrict access somewhere?
Yeah, needing to restrict access to a server room, or it could even be initiated physically through a lost device, for example.
Okay.
Your legal departments are absolutely essential for navigating compliance, managing potential legal ramifications, especially around data breaches or those required regulatory notifications we mentioned.
CUI notifications, for example.
And crafting external communications that are legally sound.
Mm-hmm.
Operations personnel are obviously on the front lines, dealing with the direct impact and helping restore services.
Yes.
And here's one that's maybe less obvious but equally vital. Even procurement offices can be involved.
Procurement. How so?
Imagine needing to quickly acquire specialized tools, maybe external forensic services, or emergency hardware during an active response.
Right. You need to buy stuff fast.
Exactly. A well-oiled procurement process can shave hours or even days off your recovery time. So the plan connects all these disparate parts into one cohesive, coordinated response, ensuring no critical area is left unaddressed.
That really paints a picture of interconnectedness. But, okay, to even start the incident response process, you first need to detect the incident, right?
Step one, absolutely.
How does the plan address gathering information for detection? And what's a common blind spot for organizations here? Is it just waiting for an alert?
That's another excellent question. The plan absolutely must detail how to gather information from diverse sources to effectively detect incidents. And the common blind spot. It's often relying on just one or two data streams, thinking, oh, our firewall logs are enough, or our antivirus will catch everything.
Yeah, wishful thinking sometimes.
Totally. NIST highlights that true incident detection requires fusing seemingly disparate data points. It's not just one magic button that lights up.
So what kind of sources are we talking about?
Well, this includes continuous audit monitoring, constantly looking at logs from servers, firewalls, applications for suspicious activity. Then there's network monitoring, watching traffic patterns for anything unusual, like unexpected outbound connections or weird spikes in data transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Even physical access monitoring, knowing who enters restricted areas, like your data center, can be a critical piece of the puzzle.
Mm.
Some cyber incidents do have a physical component or initiation.
Right, like someone plugging in a rogue USB.
Exactly. And of course, never underestimate reports from both regular users and system administrators. They are invaluable. So many incidents are first flagged by a user noticing something just feels off.
Yeah, the human sensor.
Absolutely. And here's a key insight NIST provides. Even reported supply chain events can be a critical source.
Supply chain. That's huge now.
It is. If a vulnerability is found in a component from one of your suppliers, or worse, a breach occurs at a third-party vendor you rely on, That's an incident you need to be prepared for. It directly impacts your own risk posture and potentially your CUI.
So the insight isn't just what data to collect.
No.
It's how these seemingly unconnected data streams, when you integrate them, create a truly proactive detection capability.
Precisely. It's about building a comprehensive intelligence picture, something that's often missed if you only look at one piece.
Okay, so the plan is written, it's comprehensive, it involves everyone. But as we all know, a beautiful blueprint is pretty useless if the builders don't know how to read it.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Which brings us to the human element, the crucial next piece of this puzzle, the training. You can have the most meticulously crafted plan in the world, but if your team isn't ready to execute it, it's just paper.
You've hit on the absolute truth there. This step, NIST 03.06.04, is fundamentally all about people. It focuses on providing essential incident response training to all system users.
All users.
All system users. But the key here, which NIST really emphasizes, is that the training must be tailored to their specific roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
This isn't about sending out the same generic security awareness videos to everyone in the company. It's about ensuring that you, specifically, know exactly what you need to know and do to react effectively when an incident strikes, minimizing confusion, maximizing efficiency.
That makes total sense. Tailored is definitely the operative word there. So who needs what kind of training, and maybe more importantly, how frequently? Because I imagine the training needs of, say, a frontline help desk employee are wildly different from a dedicated forensic analyst.
Absolutely, worlds apart. The content and frequency of training should be directly aligned with individuals' assigned duties, roles, and responsibilities. So, for instance, a general user, someone just working on their computer day to day.
Right.
They might only need to know how to recognize a suspicious email, like a phishing attempt, and critically, whom to call or how to use an automated ticketing system to report it properly.
So, recognize and report.
Recognize and report. They don't need to understand the intricate technical steps of malware analysis or, system hardening. Their role is early detection and proper reporting channels.
Okay. What about system administrators then? They're more hands-on.
Right. So a system administrator needs much more in-depth knowledge. They require training on handling specific types of incidents relevant to the systems they manage. This includes the initial technical detection, how to contain a threat like isolating an infected machine from the network quickly, and basic recovery procedures for those systems. They're the ones who will likely be getting their hands dirty with the immediate technical response.
And then you have the specialists, the actual incident response team members, maybe. What's their training look like?
Yeah, for your dedicated incident responders, these are the true specialists, and they require highly specialized training. We're talking about areas like digital forensics.
Stuff.
The really deep stuff, not just deleting a malicious file, but knowing how to collect evidence without destroying it, preserving the chain of custody so it's actually admissible if needed for legal action or insurance claims.
Right, that's critical.
Critical. They need advanced data collection techniques, detailed reporting protocols for both internal stakeholders and potentially external entities like law enforcement or regulators, and comprehensive system recovery and full system restoration strategies. That includes dealing with backups effectively and verifying data integrity post-incident. It's a very different, much deeper skill set than what a general user or even a typical sysadmin would possess.
That's a really crucial distinction. But is this training just a one-time thing, like when someone joins the team or gets access? Or is it an ongoing process? Because the threat landscape evolves so fast.
Oh, it's definitely not a one-and-done deal. Not at all. Training should be provided promptly. NIST uses the phrase within an organization-defined time period when someone assumes an incident response role or gets new system access or when system changes require new knowledge.
Okay, initial training.
Right, that initial bit. But beyond that, onboarding, regular periodic training is absolutely crucial to keep skills sharp and knowledge current.
Like muscle memory.
Exactly. Think of it like CPR training. You don't just learn it once and expect to remember it perfectly years later under pressure. You need refreshers, practice, updates. And NIST even suggests that this specific incident response training can often be integrated efficiently with broader security awareness training, like the role-based training discussed back in NIST 03.02.02.
So you can combine efforts.
Exactly. Ensures efficiency and reinforces existing security education programs without necessarily duplicating effort.
Smart. Now, speaking of updates, what triggers those updates for the training content itself? And what's the risk if organizations, if they don't keep their training current?
The risk of stagnant training is massive. I mean, really. An outdated team is almost as vulnerable as an untrained one, maybe more so because there's a false sense of security.
Right.
The training content itself must be reviewed and updated periodically. Significant events are key triggers. For instance, findings from your incident response plan testing.
The testing again.
See, it all connects. If you run a drill and realize your training didn't cover a specific scenario or a new tool properly, that's a major catalyst for an update.
Makes sense. Learn from the drill.
Learn from the drill. And definitely learn from actual incidents. Lessons learned are invaluable. Every incident, big or small, should be a learning opportunity feeding back into training.
What else?
Also, new audit or security assessment findings, or, importantly, changes in applicable laws, executive orders, policies, directives, regulations, standards. All of those should trigger updates to your training materials.
So compliance changes drive training changes.
Absolutely. The threat landscape is always evolving, right? New attack methods, new vulnerabilities pop up constantly. Your team's knowledge just has to keep pace. It's a constant feedback loop designed to keep your organization resilient, agile, and prepared for the threats of today, not just yesterday.
Okay, so we've meticulously planned and we've rigorously trained our team. Now, what happens when that plan actually has to be put into motion? This feels like where we shift gears.
Definitely.
Let's transition from preparation to action with the handling and the reporting. These are truly where the rubber meets the road, right? Where theory transforms into active defense.
Precisely. This is the core capability, the ability to actually handle an incident when it's happening live. NIST 03.06.01, beyond just detailing the plan itself, really focuses on implementing the actual incident handling capability.
Right.
It's about taking that meticulously written plan and that well-trained team and putting them into practice effectively under real-world pressure.
You mentioned a life cycle for incident handling earlier. Can you walk us through those phases again and what each one truly entails for an organization on the ground?
Absolutely. Yeah, incident handling isn't just a single event. It's a continuous, multi-phased process. The first phase is preparation.
Which we've just covered. Plan and train.
Exactly. Covered extensively with the plan and the training. You simply can't handle an incident well if you haven't prepared properly.
Okay, so after prep comes detection.
Right. Next is detection and analysis. This is where your organization recognizes that something is wrong, the detection part, and then works quickly to figure out exactly what it is, its scope, and its potential impact, the analysis part. This can be triggered by anything from unusual network traffic logs to a user reporting a suspicious email to an explicit alarm from your security systems.
And the challenge here is...
The challenge here is often distinguishing real threats from the noise, the false positives, and then really understanding the full extent of the compromise quickly. It's like finding smoke and then rapidly determining if it's just a small cooking mishap or, a full-blown electrical fire about to take down the building.
Okay, good analogy. So once you've detected and analyzed the fire, what's the next critical step? Containment.
Exactly. Yeah. Once detected and analyzed, you move into containment. This is precisely like putting a perimeter around that fire. Your primary goal here is simple. Stop the spread.
Stop the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding. Isolate affected systems or data to prevent further damage. This might involve disconnecting compromised systems from the network, disabling affected user accounts, maybe segmenting parts of your network.
But that could impact business, right?
Absolutely. The critical decisions here often involve trade-offs. How much business disruption are you willing to tolerate right now to contain the threat effectively? You just don't want that digital fire spreading throughout your entire network, compromising more data or more systems.
Okay, contain the damage, then what?
After containment comes eradication. This is literally extinguishing the fire and, crucially, removing its root cause.
Getting rid of it for good.
For good. It means getting rid of the malicious elements, the malware, the unauthorized access points, any backdoors the attackers left, and fixing the underlying vulnerability that allowed the incident to happen in the first place.
So it's not just deleting a bad file.
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely not. It often involves understanding the malware's persistence mechanisms, things like hidden registry keys, scheduled tasks, maybe even boot sector modifications. The attackers are clever, they want to stay in.
Right.
Identifying the true root cause can be really hard, especially with things like polymorphic malware or, sophisticated nation-state implants that actively try to evade detection. Eradication can be a real cat-and-mouse game, even for seasoned teams. You have to be sure the adversary is completely gone and can't easily regain access.
Okay, that sounds tough. And finally, after containment and eradication, how do you actually recover?
The final phase in the cycle is recovery. This involves restoring the affected systems and services back to normal, trusted operation.
Getting back to business.
Getting back to business. This is rebuilding after the fire. It's about bringing your systems back online safely and efficiently, verifying data integrity and availability, making sure the data is still good, and applying any necessary hardening measures or patches to prevent a recurrence of the same incident.
And you said this whole life cycle is iterative.
It absolutely is. Sometimes you might detect a new aspect of an incident while you're in the eradication phase, and you have to loop back to analysis. Or maybe during recovery, you uncover something that requires further containment actions. It's not always strictly linear.
Okay. So how does this incident handling capability specifically impact non-federal organizations, especially when they're dealing with CUI? Why is it so critical for them?
This is where it gets incredibly important for our audience, for non-federal orgs. Having this robust incident handling capability means you can effectively limit the damage and, frankly, the cost of a cyber attack.
It's about managing the fallout.
Exactly. It's about being proactive in your response, not just reactive after the damage is done. When you have CUI, controlled unclassified information, at risk.
Which could be sensitive security info or even things like railroad safety analysis records listed in the CUI registry.
Precisely those kinds of things. You must have the processes in place to protect its confidentiality and integrity, even during an incident. NIST wants to ensure that controls are robust enough to minimize the impact on that sensitive data.
And if you don't have that handling capability?
Well, without a solid handling capability, a CUI breach could lead to really significant legal penalties, financial losses, loss of contracts, and major reputational repercussions. It's serious business.
So the analogy really holds your digital fire department in action. They don't just know about fires. They have the tools, the training, the coordinated effort to detect where it started, contain it, put it out, and then help you recover your property. It's a very active, hands-on process needing precision, speed, and often really rapid decision-making under duress.
Couldn't have said it better. And once you're fighting that fire, you also need to make sure the right people know about it, right? Both inside and potentially outside your organization.
Yes. Which leads us directly into the next critical step, the reporting. NIST 03.06.02. This is all about tracking what's happening and ensuring timely communication.
That's right. And this isn't just about, sending a quick email update. It involves maintaining meticulous records for each incident.
Keeping track of everything.
Everything. These records aren't just for historical purposes or, again, ticking a compliance box. They should include the incident status, key details, and other pertinent information necessary for thorough forensic analysis later on.
So you can figure out what happened.
Exactly. So you can understand precisely what happened, how, and why. But critically, these records are also crucial for evaluating trends in incidents over time. That helps you learn, adapt, and significantly improve your overall security posture long-term.
What kind of details are paramount in these records? What should people be logging?
Oh, excellent question. The records need to be precise enough to paint a really clear picture for future analysis and decision-making. We're talking about recording timestamps for every significant event. When was it detected? When did containment begin? When were systems finally restored? You need to log the actions taken, who took them, and ideally, the rationale behind those actions. Critical indicators of compromised things like malicious IP addresses, weird file hashes, unusual network activity patterns, those must be noted down.
Technical detail.
Technical details, but not just technical. Any significant communications, internal or external, related to the incident should also be logged. This meticulous documentation essentially serves as your organizational memory. It allows you to build a stronger defense with each new challenge you face.
That makes perfect sense for internal learning and forensics. But then there's the other side, the external communication piece. Timely reporting to the right people seems non-negotiable. NIST mentions organization-defined authorities. Who exactly are these authorities, typically?
Yeah, that's a key phrase.
And what are the implications if reporting is delayed or incomplete, especially for non-federal organizations dealing with sensitive CUI?
This is often where the legal and reputational stakes become highest. First off, suspected incidents must be reported to your organization's designated internal incident response capability within an organization-defined time period. That ensures swift internal action, right? Prevents minor issues from snowballing.
Okay, internal first.
Internal first, quickly. But as you said, it goes beyond just your internal team. Organization-defined authorities can be a pretty wide array of stakeholders.
Jazz.
Well, internally, this could mean various critical people.
Hmm.
Senior management who need to understand the business impact and make strategic decisions. Definitely legal counsel who are essential for ensuring compliance, managing potential liabilities, crafting external statements,
Hmm.
or specific department heads whose operations or data are directly affected. Then,
Yeah,
externally.
who's external?
Externally, depending on the nature of the incident and the applicable laws or contracts you have, these entities could include law enforcement agencies like the FBI, perhaps regulatory bodies.
Like if it involves specific types of data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the Department of Transportation if specific railroad safety data was involved, or HHS if it's health information. Or it could even be your supply chain partners if the incident originated with them or significantly impacts them.
Right.
The type of incident, what data was involved, especially CUI, and the required timeliness of these reports all directly reflect your organization's specific legal and regulatory obligations. And for non-federal organizations handling CUI, this is particularly critical because CUI, by its very definition, has specific safeguarding and dissemination controls required by law, regulation, or government-wide policy.
So messing up the reporting could be costly?
Very costly.
Hmm.
Failure to report promptly and accurately can lead to severe fines, loss of government contracts, and significant, sometimes irreversible, reputational damage.
Wow. Okay. That's a crucial point about those regulatory obligations. Now, where does all the information for this reporting come from? You mentioned logs earlier, but it seems like it's more than just the initial detection points we discussed. It feels like a continuous stream of data feeding into this.
It absolutely is a continuous stream. Information for reporting doesn't just magically appear at the initial detection point. It's really a synthesis of data gathered from various sources throughout the entire incident lifecycle.
Okay, like what else?
Well, it includes ongoing network monitoring logs that track suspicious traffic patterns, the formal incident reports generated by your internal teams as they investigate and document findings, direct user complaints or reports that flag anomalies,
Mm-hmm.
information shared by your supply chain partners who might have experienced a related incident, detailed audit monitoring logs that capture system changes and user access patterns, and even potentially physical access monitoring data that could correlate with a cyber event.
So you're pulling from everywhere.
You're pulling from everywhere. And all of this data collectively helps to inform your ongoing risk assessments. It helps you evaluate the effectiveness of your existing security controls. Are they working? It shapes requirements for future technology acquisitions. What tools do we actually need? And it can even influence the selection criteria for new products or services you bring into your environment.
So it's a really rich feedback loop.
Invaluable. It's a rich, invaluable feedback loop that constantly strengthens your overall defenses and helps you learn from every single attack or near miss.
Okay. And NIST also talks about offering support resources for incident response. What does that look like in practice? Is it just the IT help desk or something more? Why is it so vital?
Yeah, it's definitely intended to be more than just your standard IT help desk, although that can certainly be a component of it. Organizations need to offer a dedicated incident response support resource.
Okay.
And the key difference is this isn't just about receiving reports, it's about actively providing advice and assistance to users for both handling and reporting incidents.
Ah, helping people know what to do.
Exactly. This support mechanism is vital because, let's face it, most users aren't security experts. They need clear, accessible guidance when they suspect something is wrong, or they might just ignore it or do the wrong thing.
Right. So what does this look like practically?
Practically speaking, this could take several forms. It might be a dedicated help desk that's always available, perhaps even 24/7, specifically for urgent security issues. It could be a specialized assistance group within IT or security with deeper expertise, or maybe a robust automated ticketing system that allows users to easily open and track incident response tickets, ensuring nothing falls through the cracks.
Okay.
And in more severe cases, like a major breach, it might even mean facilitating access to external resources, like specialized forensic services to analyze the extent of the compromise, or maybe consumer redress services if the incident's nature requires it.
Like if personal info or CUI impacting individuals gets breached.
Exactly. If there's a data breach involving PII or sensitive CUI that impacts individuals, providing support like credit monitoring might be necessary or even legally required.
Right.
The main goal is to make it easy for anyone in the organization to report suspicious activity and, critically, to get the right help quickly and efficiently.
Okay, so If handling is the fire department actively fighting the blaze, then reporting is kind of like the dispatch system and the communication network. It makes sure everyone who needs to know knows and that resources are coordinated effectively.
That's a great way to think about it.
And also helps the fire department analyze past fires to prevent future ones. It's how you learn and evolve your whole response strategy. This whole process is really starting to make sense as a cycle.
It's all connected, absolutely. Plan, train, handle, report. But there's one more piece.
Right. We've laid out the plan, we've trained the team, we've initiated the handling process, and we've ensured robust reporting. But
Right.
how do you truly know if all of this meticulously crafted strategy and effort actually works when it counts?
Ah, the million-dollar question.
That's where our final but absolutely critical step comes in, the testing. You can plan and practice on paper all you want, but you need to validate that it works in a realistic scenario, don't you?
This is truly where theory meets reality. You got it. NIST 03.06.03 is concise, almost deceptively simple in its wording, but it is absolutely critical. You must test the effectiveness of your incident response capability periodically.
Periodically, not just once.
Periodically.
Yeah.
Regularly. This isn't a suggestion. It's a foundational requirement to ensure your security posture is robust, resilient, and actually ready for whatever the threat landscape throws at you next.
So what's the primary why behind this testing, especially given the effort it must involve sometimes?
Yeah.
Is it just about ticking a compliance box, or is there a deeper, more practical benefit here?
So the primary why is profoundly practical and goes way beyond mere compliance checking. It's simple, really. You test to find weaknesses or deficiencies in your plan and your processes before a real event occurs.
Find the holes before the attackers do.
Exactly. It's far, far better to discover a gap in your communication protocols, or a technical flaw in your detection systems, or maybe a breakdown in role clarity during a controlled drill, than during a live cyber attack where the stakes are incredibly high.
Especially with CUI involved.
Especially when dealing with sensitive CUI. Testing helps you determine how effective your current capabilities actually are at achieving their goal of protecting that CUI and other vital organizational assets. It helps you identify the unknown unknowns, the things you don't even realize are broken until you actually put them to the test.
That's a really powerful point, finding the weaknesses before they're exploited. Now, testing isn't just one thing, is it? You hinted at different types. What kind of tests does NIST recommend, and how do they differ in practice?
You're right, testing isn't just a single activity. It's really a spectrum of activities, each designed to uncover different types of weaknesses or gaps. On the simpler end of the spectrum, you have things like checklists.
Just running through the steps.
Yeah, pretty much. Straightforward procedural reviews to ensure all documented steps are considered and followed. Like, did we remember to involve the legal team in this specific reporting step? Is that emergency communication channel still active and populated with the correct contacts? While they seem basic, they're crucial for ensuring fundamental procedural adherence hasn't slipped.
Okay, that's the basics. Then you move into more interactive forms of testing, like tabletop exercises, right? I've heard those are quite popular.
Yeah, are very popular, and for good reason. Next, you transition to more interactive forms like walkthroughs or tabletop exercises. These are scenario-based discussions.
Talking it through.
Talking it through. Your team gathers, often in a conference room, and talks through a hypothetical incident step by step based on the plan. They don't involve touching live systems, so the risk is low, but they are incredibly effective at helping you identify gaps in communication, clarify roles, expose potential decision-making flaws, and reveal interdepartmental friction points or misunderstandings.
So it's like the fire drill, where you just walk through the escape routes and discuss who does what without any actual smoke or fire.
That's a perfect analogy. It helps everyone understand their position, their responsibilities, and how they need to coordinate effectively. It gets that complex machine we talked about earlier working together smoothly, at least in theory.
Okay. And for the most comprehensive testing, what's the ultimate scenario? Simulations.
Exactly. For the most comprehensive and realistic testing, you have simulations. These are much more complex, often hands-on exercises. They might involve simulated attacks launched against isolated non-production systems or networks.
Getting your hands dirty.
Getting your hands dirty. These simulations can truly stress test both your technical capabilities and your human response procedures in a much more realistic environment, but crucially, without risking your actual production systems.
Right, a safe space to fail.
A safe space to fail and learn. This is when the fire department actually gets their hoses out and practices on a training ground, not a real burning building. They're seeing if their equipment works under pressure if their coordination is tight, and if their training actually kicks in when things get chaotic.
So this finds the deeper issues.
It really does.
Yeah.
These types of tests reveal the technical gaps, the tool failures, and sometimes the subtle human errors that only seem to emerge when the pressure is really on. It might even involve a dedicated red team actively trying to breach your simulated defenses while your blue team responds in real time.
Wow. Okay. That sounds intense but valuable. And all this testing ultimately helps in measuring effectiveness, right? What kind of metrics are useful here, both maybe qualitative and quantitative?
That's the ultimate goal. Understanding how well your program actually works in practice. Testing helps determine the potential effects an incident and your response to it could have on your organizational operations, your assets, and even individuals, like understanding potential system downtime or the impact of data exposure. And you gather both qualitative and quantitative data. Qualitative data might include things like feedback from the participants on the clarity of their roles, the usability of the incident response tools, or the effectiveness of the communication channels during the drill.
How people felt it went.
Yeah, the subjective experience, which is important. But then you need the hard numbers, too. Quantitative data is where you measure things like mean time to detect, MTTD. How long did it take us to even notice the simulated attack? Mean time to contain, MTTC. How quickly did we stop the spread? And mean time to resolve, MTTR. How long until we were fully recovered?
Okay, timing metrics.
Timing metrics are huge. These provide concrete numbers that help you track improvements over time and identify specific areas that need more attention or resources. This combined data is invaluable for measuring effectiveness and directly informing improvement back into your plan, your training, and your overall incident response capabilities.
It really is the fire drill. You practice to make sure the plan actually works when you need it. A simple concept, but brilliant, really. Helps you avoid panic and react with precision.
Couldn't agree more. Practice makes prepared.
So let's tie this all together. What does this all mean for you, the non-federal organization out there trying to protect your digital foundation, especially when CUI is potentially at stake? We've just navigated the 5 critical components of incident response as outlined by NIST.
Yeah, if we connect all these dots, you can really see how these 5 concepts, having a meticulously documented incident response plan,
Step 1.
having a rigorously trained team ready to actually execute that plan,
Step 2.
possessing the capability for effective incident handling when a crisis actually strikes,
Step 3.
implementing clear and timely incident reporting to all the necessary internal and external parties,
Step 4.
and conducting regular testing to validate that everything works as intended.
Step 5.
How all of these form a complete, powerful, and truly cyclical approach to building cyber resilience.
It's not linear, it's a loop.
Exactly. It's not about achieving some elusive state of perfect security. Honestly, that's just not realistic in today's threat landscape. It's profoundly about continuous improvement. It's a constant cycle of planning, doing, checking, and acting, learning and adapting.
And ultimately, the goal is about transforming what could be a potential disaster into a managed event. Being prepared means you don't have to panic when something happens. It means you can protect your controlled unclassified information, you can maintain operational continuity even under attack, and you can safeguard your organization's hard-earned reputation.
It truly is the difference between a minor disruption that you recover from relatively quickly and a potentially catastrophic breach that could cripple your operations, cost millions, or worse. And this entire discussion, I think, raises an important question for our listeners, one we genuinely love for you to consider for your own situation. Of all these critical steps we talked about, the planning, the training, the handling, the reporting, and the testing, which one do you think is most often neglected or presents the biggest challenge in organizations like yours?
That's a great question. Is it the plan never gets updated? Is the training too generic? Do people freeze during handling? Is reporting inconsistent? Or does testing just not happen often enough?
We'd love to hear your thoughts, maybe in the comments or by reaching out, because understanding those common pitfalls helps us all strengthen our collective security posture.
So remember, a documented plan, a trained team, and a tested process are the absolute keys to turning a potential disaster into a managed event.
It really is all about being prepared so you don't have to panic. Next time, we'll shift gears again and get our hands dirty with a different but related area, the maintenance family of controls.
Looking forward to that one. Thanks for listening.
Please like and subscribe if you found this useful, and you can always visit us at cybertaas.com. Stay secure out there.